know, I'm a bit skeptical to Jackson. The jury is still out there. I would say that if you're not good enough for Chelsea, are you then good enough for Bayern? Then the
In
devil's
his
advocate.
defense, he was their starting striker, right? Until Delap and João Pedro came in. So there is
Yeah,
that
but
too.
so that means that Delap and João Pedro are seen as better than him. I'm just saying that mathematically,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I don't think he's a natural goal scorer. Having said that, Marcus, Max Eber was told to take someone on loan. I think he found a good way around it because then he
Fair
takes on for
play, yeah.
an unbelievable high amount of the loaning fee.
Hi and welcome to the Fußball channel. I'm your host Marcus Fjørtoft, and as always joined by co-host Jan Fjørtoft. And it's good to be back. That I was in Canada for 10 days and you've been doing your things, and here we are back in line with the start of the Bundesliga season. But give us a little summary of what you've done, and then I'll tell them what I've done in Canada.
Now I think you should start because
You
you
think
follow
me?
the
Oh, you're super
yeah
light now.
now you follow the footsteps of Thomas Müller quite literally. You went
Yeah.
over there and you were there at his first game, and tell us how that was.
Yeah, well, a quick explainer, a quick story. I was there for a few days break, and I visited my good friend Brian White, who plays for the Vancouver Whitecaps, got a few caps for the US men national team, etc. Visited both Vancouver, Calgary, and actually Toronto, so did the full tour. But first up was Vancouver, and as part of seeing Brian play, and he scored a penalty, and there was a bit of a conversation where I think everyone wanted Thomas Müller to take that penalty, and then it was Brian who ended up taking that penalty. But then in the 90, I think it was 104th minute, the penalty was awarded, and this was an extra time. A pretty controversial penalty at that, but then Thomas Müller steps up 2-2. It was, and then he puts it in 3-2. Call him as you like. As part of that, and before the match, I interviewed the Vancouver Whitecaps CEO Axel Schuster, German, as you can hear by the name. Former Mainz and Schalke, was over 2 decades in Germany, part of shaping very much the youth system, then the first team system, from when Mainz got promoted all the way to their UEFA Cup run. And they haven't gotten relegated since. So we discussed that, discussed his time at Schalke and some of the pitfalls actually German clubs can fall in. We've seen Hertha Berlin, Hamburg fall into those pitfalls, just discussing his experiences there and just how to be a football CEO. I think we see a bit more clarity about that in the German game, less so in the English game. But in general, I think it's always fascinating to get an insight from a football executive. So we look forward to sharing that. We'll share that now that it's international break as well, and hopefully people can enjoy it.
And did you go partying with Brian and Thomas Müller?
I went to a bar, yeah. I went to a bar. I never thought I'd find myself there next to Brian and my wife, and then it was Thomas Müller, who, by the way, and I'm not saying like it is a fun moment. I think I've been around football enough to be like not starstruck as that, but it is funny when you see someone who actually is so aligned with what you'd expect. You know, he's just exactly what you would imagine him being, and so yeah, he was there, and I. I'm not to reveal any source, but I think he said, and I think it's on Vancouver Whitecaps channels. He said, "Oh, the rounds are on me this time," and yeah, I think he lived up to that promise. To be fair,
So when we
I was
asked
polite though. I was polite. I went. I didn't want to take. You know, I got my own drinks. I know how it is being part of the team, but yeah, it was funny to see.
so you went to Vancouver getting paid your drinks by Thomas Müller. Now you paid for yourself. You paid for yourself.
Yeah.
Well, since I saw you, I've been doing what I do. I went to Germany. I did Bayern Munich against Leipzig. That was good. It was good to be back in German football. The next game I'm going to do is Leverkusen Eintracht on the Fridays. I'll try to. ESPN want me to have me there on
Yeah.
Fridays. So, but it is a bit stressful because then the next day I have to go back and do the studio in Oslo, which is great because then you sit in the studio for 8 hours. You have a look and you can get a great overview. So then I did 2 days that. And then I do Newcastle against Liverpool, which was an amazing game. As James, as I've told you before, Marcus, I played, of course, for the local rival Middlesbrough, but I always compliment the Newcastle of the atmosphere in the stadium. I mean, back in the days when I played, where they had white and black shirts all over the place. I mean, all over the place. They were number one, and I was noticing that now. I don't think I saw anyone. I mean, now it's more common in every stadium, more or less. But at St. James's is only there, and I was sitting behind Arne Slot when Newcastle with 10 man was throwing giants. I mean, giants forward, get to 2-2. They want to win 3-2. What does Slot do? He put on Elliot and Rio, the 16-year-old, who is now 17, by the way, put them on, and the 16-year-old then scored a winner. It was an amazing football game. And this weekend I went and did Manchester United Burnley. Manchester United did it, and then we had the Viaplay Premier Sunday, as it's called, this time not with Japstam, who was in holiday, but Jules Breach with Freddie Ljungberg and Peter Schmeichel, and we did Liverpool Arsenal,
and maybe we can move on for that. No need to discuss that even further.
Now you're an Arsenal fan like yourself, but it's a good bridge to Szoboszlai, who came from Germany.
We know what he can do. We're not surprised by that, obviously, because we've seen him strike the ball, and he decided that was the time to do it, which is great for Liverpool fans. But Dad, let's get into the Bundesliga. You said you were going to do Leverkusen, Eintracht Frankfurt, and we knew it was probably going to be a top clash, but the fact that there was going to be Eintracht Frankfurt as the top team, and they're looking very good now, by the way, Dad. They're looking, in terms of talk about a club that, we discussed this, a club that is designed to replace the good players that they sell, which they do. I mean, Şan Öztürk, Bahoya, Burkhardt, obviously at top, Ritsu Dohan, one of the best signings I think the Bundesliga have made. But they're meeting a Leverkusen team that are in huge crises. Erik ten Hag fired. It is the quickest sacking from someone being hired to basically being sacked. 2 games. Dieter Hecking got sacked after 3 games with Aachen. But wow, 2024, in May 2024, Bayer Leverkusen were double champions. They had gone through arguably stated as the best Bundesliga team of all time, based off record. And here we are in September, 1 point, sacked Xabi Alonso's replacement. And yeah, a team in huge upheaval. And now what? I mean, we put out a little short on YouTube for anyone who hasn't missed of your initial reaction, but just again, what is there to say about this frankly absurd situation?
Well, yeah, I'll do a quick explainer on that one, because after Xabi Alonso left for Real Madrid after taking the club to the double, I mean, that was an amazing, and also went to European League final, lost that, but still a fantastic job for them. It was always going to be hard for the guy who come after. I mean, the main bad skill of any coach coming after will be, it was not Xabi Alonso. Mm-hmm. But I mean, it's amazing. I don't think the reference to other clubs was being at the top, and 1 year later they get rid of 5-6 players. And I was skeptical to Ten Hag because he was so different to Alonso. Maybe I think that Caro and Rolfes wanted to, the management, they wanted to do the same philosophy. But okay, I was thinking when they took all these players away, they maybe wanted a bit tougher, if you know what I mean, a stricter coach in that position. Ten Hag, coming from Ajax, made his school in Bayern under Guardiola, so he knew German football as any Dutch coach will do anyway. So okay, success. He had 2 titles for Manchester United in these days. I mean, that is amazing. But Rolfes, I mean, he held his hand up and he said, "We done wrong." I mean, yes, Marcus, it's easy to say 2 games in the Bundesliga, 1 point. Last game, 3-1 up in Bremen with 11 against 10 men, 3-3. But you had a feeling there was something going on outside off the pitch as well. Mm-hmm. Arnich, the new captain, he did an interview in German football, or German media, and you didn't have to be the cousin of Albert Einstein to understand that he was speaking between the lines. I think he was asked something like, are you following the instructions of the coach, or is it down to the players that the mistakes? And he said a bit of both, I guess. And in Germany, these kind of words are very, very analyzed of all pundits, all programs on Sunday. They do that. So they choose to do what some old rich people always told me. They said, if you start losing, I mean, they talked about the investment, just sell straight away because you won't get it back. Just sell, just take your loss, sell. And I'm not sure if I'm going to be impressed by Simon Rolfes doing that, or ask what did you do when you hired him, because it's down to them to define which kind of coach they want to have. I mean, Ten Hag, of course, furious, attacked the management as Leverkusen, as you do after 2 Bundesliga games. He won the first round in the cup, by the way, but that was not enough. And now he got fired at Manchester United, got his money. Now I just read before I came on now that they say that he will get 6 million euro for that 40 or so days in Leverkusen. But still, Marcus, for his reputation, but also the reputation of Bayer Leverkusen. Don't forget that this club is a part of the big Bayern concern. This is, say that they hired a CEO. This is not, Simon Rolfes would be the first one to say this doesn't look good. And he knows that. He turned around straight away. And now I talked to someone in Frankfurt. Why did they do it before our game? We could have waited one more game to do it. But it is what it is.
Well, the good news for Eintracht, I guess, is that they still have his assistant coaches, so to speak, in leadership, which again is, you know, it is a break in many ways, but at the same time, it's still very much part of that structure that just didn't work. And that is, it was a pretty damning article. One of the co-writers being the podcast, or the friend of the podcast, sorry, Pipo Arons, who knows Leverkusen more than most. And just to summarize it quick, it was in terms of just the short amount of time he has, well, it's a squad under huge turnover, yes, but it was to the point in which, and I think the decision had been made even ahead of Bremen, but Bremen also being a great example of a team that didn't know really what to do. There was less a philosophy and more just action points that they were following, and even then they were failing it. There was public clashes with leadership. We remember when Ten Hag coming out very openly and saying the squad isn't good enough. I need more players. Xhaka, he said, I'm vetoing it. He's not leaving, even though Rolfes said, listen, if we find a deal here, it's a win-win for all. These are the conversations that were probably had internally. On that note, part of that internal circle, you have a Caro, a Rolfes, a Xabi Alonso before. Ten Hag was already out of that. The Lucas Vazquez deal that they brought him on loan from Real Madrid wasn't even done with Ten Hag. The conversation with Ten Hag was done after the deal had been really completed. So led to obviously a loss of authority, tactical concerns. Players weren't happy with training. There wasn't any cohesiveness between the different physios, sporting trainers, etc. One of the anecdotes being there was more equal amount of emphasis on push-ups as it was the technical aspects of it. And the list goes on. It was pretty...
Yeah, but Marcus, to be a devil's advocate, just to stop you there, you can't fire Erik Ten Hag for being Ten Hag. Because if you hire Ten Hag...
So why... Rolfes, what's the idea? What's the idea for Rolfes? And is he hiring... You're saying, okay... I guess he's hiring him as a football coach, a tactician.
No, I understand. Right? I understand where they come from. I'm just saying, and you know, we are both a big fan of Caro and Simon Rolfes. I mean, they are some of the best in the business, but this is a total own goal of them, and they know it.
For sure.
I mean, yeah, they're sure, because that is Erik Ten Hag. I had never problem to work with Ten Hag in England when I did my role there. But Erik Ten Hag is Erik Ten Hag, and as you were saying, he came from England, and then he didn't have a head of sport in Germany. You know that they are much closer. Simon Rolfes is close to the team. Caro is close to the team. It's the same in Bayern. Max Eberl is very close to the team. Christoph Freund is close to the team, and Uli Hoeneß, Karl-Heinz Rummenigge. I mean, so this is the way of Germany, and I'm surprised when I hear what's coming out of the Leverkusen camp. We just have it from one side, what they're saying, of course. Ten Hag has his side. We respect that, but it's not a good look for Simon Rolfes. And I'm not saying he's a good friend, but I know him quite well. I like him. He's a very good lad, and he will be. I'm not saying he will be embarrassed, but yes, I think like professional, he will be embarrassed, because because you know it's your decision. He probably went to the board and said, listen, this is the coach that we want to have after Alonso. Maybe it wasn't the first choice. We don't know, Marcus. Fabregas was talking. They were talking about Fabregas. Maybe they went for another kind of Alonso type of coach, couldn't get him, and then Erik ten Hag was available. We don't know, but not a good look for Bayer Leverkusen. This.
No, and it wasn't their first choice, sorry. But again, who would have thought that it was that
No,
dramatic
no,
of
no.
a turnaround? I think you could sense, I mean, and then I don't buy too much into preseason, but obviously it was that 5-1 loss to Flamengo under 20s. It was a rather
That
underwhelming
was his first game,
preseason.
wasn't it? Wasn't that
I
his
believe
first
so. I
game?
believe so. One of the
Yeah,
very first ones.
yeah.
So to your point, I mean, it is one of the biggest mistakes of Rolfes Caro's career. We could say that, and they have huge cred in the business for what they've done, and they've acknowledged it. And yes, do you show strong leadership then again in return?
Well, yeah, that is a
Yeah,
good point because okay, that's what I will say. I respect them for doing that
yeah.
because they could have just kept on doing it and hope it changed and kind of save their face. They could have done that, but they're also doing something that's very strong to do that after I think it was 40 days. They
Mhm.
were back in the 70s. There was some famous with Brian Clough who went to Leeds for 44 days. So but okay, we did a mistake.
Mhm.
We will see what we're doing. I saw now. I have no idea who will come there, but Terzic is in the market. He's been linked to the job, so we'll see what Simon Rolfes is doing. It's going to be interesting.
Xavi was included there as well. Marco Rose, Dominic Tedesco, but
Yeah,
it
yeah.
seemed I don't know how valid those were, but I think there are a lot of different interesting profiles to pick from. Postecoglou is available. Who knows? There's a lot of and so with Liverpool.
Zinedine Zidane, after scoring that goal against Leverkusen, that with his left foot in the corner, maybe he should
Imagine
go to
that.
Leverkusen.
Imagine that. A new look squad for Leverkusen. A lot there to work with. Top 10, five of the top 10 most expensive signings going into Bundesliga clubs are from Leverkusen. There's plenty of quality there. It's just a matter of getting to gel. And obviously, they have lost a big leadership core in the likes of Xhaka, Radetzky, Ta, Wirtz. Let's move on then.
Frimpong.
Frimpong, yes, of course. Uh,
Yeah.
a lot of deadline day signings. You worked across. You've been a busy man during the deadline signing. Had some nice revelations, so to speak, and a lot
Yeah,
of engagement.
but I'm not a transfer man, Marcus. But
No,
sometimes I can't come over this. I
dabble a
I
bit.
I respect the guys who's doing that, but sometimes I do know about some deals. But yeah, there was some interesting deals going on. Imagine how Ekitike feels now after they got him and they say, well, we didn't get a Isak, so we take Ekitike. He's the second best Isak in the world. I know Isak is in Liverpool. Fantastic summer window for Liverpool. To make it 100% perfect would be to get Gay. They didn't get him for different reasons. I saw reports today saying that Glasner said if he leaves, I leave. We don't know about that, but
Mhm.
that's been said. We're going to be excited to follow the first press conference after that. And in Germany, there's been some action as well. Jackson. Finally, they told him to come back after Delap got that injury, and then they stayed in Munich, and good for them.
Give
He's now a Bayern player.
give me the verdict on Nicolas Jackson as a Bayern player. Loan, 16.5 million, extremely expensive loan. Obligation to buy if I think gets to a certain number of appearances or whatnot for 65 million. It's an expensive package that for a quote unquote backup striker.
Yeah, and sometimes, and we're soon going to do the best signings of the window, and I will explain how I think there because sometimes when we judge the deals, are we entitled to say the business of it, or should we just say the sports part of it? I'm a bit skeptical to Jackson. The jurist is still out there. I have a lot of discussions with my colleague at Viaplay about this player. I would say that if you're not good enough for Chelsea, are you then good enough for Bayern? Then the
In
devil's
his
advocate.
defense, he was their starting striker, right? Until Delap and João Pedro came in. So there is
Yeah,
that
but
too.
so that means that Delap and João Pedro are seen as better than him. I'm just saying that mathematically,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
I don't think he's a natural goal scorer. Having said that, Max Eber was told to take someone on loan. I think he found a good way around it, because then he
fair
takes someone
play.
for an unbelievable high amount of the loaning fee. But it's hard, Marcus, to find a top player that you have to tell you maybe won't play a lot of games, because we got Díaz on left, Harry Kane is up there, so you will hope that you will get games. But saying that, it may be the best thing available when you go for a loan player. Yeah, they got their player, and I think Jackson would make his goals, because you can't avoid not scoring for Bayern. I mean, and that is no disrespect to a Díaz or a Harry Kane, because they are proven goal scorers wherever they've been. But especially Harry Kane, you still have to do it. But so I think under the circumstances, it's okay to take Jackson.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I'm not fully convinced by Nicolas Jackson. He
No,
is
no,
not a
no, no,
proven goal scorer.
no,
I think he's
no.
still pretty raw.
Yeah.
10 goals in the Premier League last season, 14 the year before. Bayern needed a backup striker. It is an expensive package. Is it the market we're in? Yes, partly. Do Chelsea get a good deal? Absolutely. But they needed a backup striker. He is a good alternative as someone who also will fill in. Musiala's out. He'll have plenty of games. I bet he will be a decent enough signing.
But it's funny. But it's funny. Again, Bayern is doing something funny, because they have an ambitions to be the best club in the world, which they should have with the structure, and then they're celebrating to get a reserve player from Chelsea. That is fact. But he could turn into be a great success. I'm not saying that. I mean, they've done that before with players. I tried to find out. Remember they took Rodriguez many years ago from Real Madrid. He was not even in a squad of Real Madrid. He was sold in as the messiah of German football. They haven't done that with Jackson. I think that Max Eberl has done what he could do in the window to get that player based on the mandates he was giving by the board and Uli Hoeneß.
Yeah, and then you could also see, okay, how far is that total package away from what they could have paid for Voltemade, and then determine. Jackson has obviously more credentials to show to, just from having played at the highest level for longer.
Yeah, not long,
but longer in a way. He's at least there's a bit more proven experience there. But listen, we can discuss that for another time. Just worth mentioning as well. Openda leaves. A very proven goal scorer. He leaves for Juventus. Juventus, who actually have a decent amount of options up there as well. With Vlahovic, with Jonathan David, but Openda goes there. I'm a big fan of Openda. Has a lot of goals and assists to his name. 40 million there will be for him. That means that golden trio at RB Leipzig of Šeško, Xavi Simons, Luis Openda combined for 45 goals and 25 assists in the 24-25 season. Big loss for RB Leipzig, and you could argue RB Leipzig could have done better with the three of them, and now it's uprooted. Unless you have anything to say on that, I'll go down further on the list.
I'm just saying that RB Leipzig did as Frankfurt did that year when they had three great strikers. True. with Rebic, Jovic, and Haller. They sold all three of them. True. I hope that we will keep two. Yeah. And okay, one then. Now it's zero. But no problem. Eintracht will always get you new strikers, so that's no problem.
And hopefully they can, reap the rewards as Eintracht did. Ben Seghir to Leverkusen. Again, we're talking about expensive deals. 20-year-old from Monaco, 30 million guaranteed plus add-ons. 20-year-old, extremely exciting player. Heidenheim, if they're not already down, and I'm sorry, Heidenheim, but you're losing one of your best players in Leo Scienza to Southampton, 8 to 10 million deal. But then I want to, and it's to do with my mighty Arsenal, because Hamburg signed two Arsenal players in Fabio Vieira and Lokonga, and Vieira especially is an outstanding signing for Hamburg. I mean, Vieira is one that you would have thought at least a German club with European football at their hands this season would have gotten, but no. Hamburg, newly promoted, get their man on a loan with an option to buy worth over 20 million. That brings us to that was the update on the Bundesliga signings. Unless you have anything more to reflect on, we are aware that we missed some as part of it, but a lot of players coming in, and then a lot of expensive players leaving the Bundesliga as well.
Yeah, and the tendency is, of course, that after Sancho's success in Dortmund, Jude Bellingham's success in Dortmund, that has been a trend now, that they send young players to develop in Germany, and then they buy big players from the Bundesliga. I mean, that is the kind of farmers league come from, and as long as this goes, that is how it is. And maybe not the best look for the Bundesliga, but what we do know about the Bundesliga, there are 4, 5, 6 clubs, so are very sustainability. Are they building these kind of things? So I always come back to my Eintracht, of course, but then you can sell. You don't have to sell, but it's good to sell if you see that you can improve the team and the club.
Yeah.
But I think that HSV, Hamburger Sportverein, in the position they are to get decent players. These, as we were explaining, Marcus, that is good for them. That could only make them better. And then we had internal in Germany, Boniface, that we know from Leverkusen, who went to Werder Bremen.
Yep, Bremen on a loan. The joke was that Boniface only did his medical on the one knee because he had his failed move to AC Milan. Yeah. Quite the deal for Bremen, who were desperately looking for a striker. You don't know what version of Boniface you will get, but we know his top level. I also wanted to mention that RB Leipzig, as an Openda replacement, signed Konrad Harder, the Dane from Sporting Lisboa. 20 years old, total package will exceed 20 million euros. Could be an exciting one as such. We will be back from a couple of weeks when the Bundesliga is back for our weekly summary, as well as special episodes as always. And do stay tuned for the exclusive interview with Vancouver Whitecaps CEO Axel Schuster, where we do talk about also the future of the Bundesliga in terms of the overall spending power, etc., and where the Bundesliga can position itself relative to that. But Dad, thanks for now.
Auf Wiedersehen.